Here's something nobody warns you about. The most dangerous moment in your engine's life isn't when you neglect it. It's right after you've just taken care of it. Millions of people change their oil, feel good about it, and then quietly pour in the one thing that starts destroying their engine from the inside. No warning light, no noise, just slow, invisible damage that shows up as a catastrophic repair bill 3 years later. Man, the worst part, the mistake is sitting right there on the store shelf, labeled clearly, and almost nobody knows how to read it. Why oil changes are dangerous. Let's start with an honest confession. Oil changes feel safe. They feel responsible. You've got your drain pan, your new filter, maybe a little grease on your hands, and that deep satisfaction of doing something yourself that the dealer wanted to charge you $80 for. And look, I get it. That feeling is real, and it's earned. Doing your own maintenance is one of the smartest things a car owner can do. But that confidence, that very reasonable, well-deserved confidence, is exactly what makes this mistake so dangerous. Because when you feel like you know what you're doing, you stop double checking. You grab the oil that looks right. You remember it was a 5-something last time. The label looks familiar. Into the engine it goes. And here's where I have to be straight with you, because this is the part most oil change videos gloss right over. Your engine doesn't care that you tried. It doesn't grade on effort. The wrong oil in the right engine causes real, measurable, permanent damage, and it does it quietly, over weeks and months, in a way that never once triggers a warning light until the damage is already done. So, before your next oil change, whether you do it yourself in the driveway or you want to know if the shop did it right, you need to understand this all the way through, because the difference between an engine that goes 300,000 miles and one that starts burning oil at 90,000 often comes down to this one thing. And no, it's not changing it too late. That's the mistake everyone warns you about. This is the one nobody does. The number one mistake, wrong oil specification. Here's the mistake. It's putting in the wrong oil specification. Not obviously wrong, not some wildly different product, just slightly wrong. The wrong viscosity grade, the wrong additive package, a conventional oil where the engine needs full synthetic, a 5W30 where the manual says 0W20. Close, but not right. And I already know what some of you are thinking. Oil is oil. My grandfather ran the same straight 30 weight in everything he owned for 40 years, and those engines ran forever. And look, I love that guy. I'm sure he was great, but he was also driving engines with tolerances you could park a small dog in. The engines being built since roughly the late 1990s, and especially everything built in the 2000s onward, are a completely different animal. Modern engines are built to incredibly tight tolerances. The gaps between moving parts, the spaces your oil has to squeeze through to keep metal from touching metal, are measured in fractions of a millimeter. And the oil that fills those gaps has to be exactly right. Too thick, and it can't get there fast enough on a cold start. Too thin, and the protective film breaks down under heat and load. Either way, metal touches metal when it shouldn't. And every time that happens, a tiny amount of your engine is gone forever. Here's the viscosity grade explained simply, because this is where people get lost. And honestly, the labeling doesn't help. When you see something like 5W30 on a bottle, that's two numbers doing two different jobs. The number before the W, which stands for winter, tells you how the oil flows when the engine is cold. Lower number flows faster in the cold, reaches your engine's parts sooner at startup. The number after the W tells you how the oil holds up at operating temperature. Higher number, thicker film under heat. So when your manual says 0W20 and you pour in 5W30 because it was on sale and you figured it was close enough, you've just told your engine to run on oil that flows slower in the cold than it was designed for, which means for those critical first few seconds after a cold start, parts that should be swimming in oil are running dry or close to it, while the thicker oil slowly makes its way through passages it wasn't quite designed to fit. Do that once, not a big deal. Do it 10 oil changes in a row over 3 years, and you've added up thousands of cold starts where your engine wore just a little more than it should have. That's how an engine that should last 300,000 miles starts burning oil at 120. Not one catastrophic failure, just the slow arithmetic of the wrong specification repeated. And then there's the synthetic versus conventional question, which is its own minefield. A lot of modern engines, especially anything turbocharged, anything with variable valve timing, anything built in the last 10 years from almost any manufacturer, specifically requires full synthetic oil. Not recommends, requires. The engineering inside those engines assumes it. The clearances assume it. The maintenance intervals assume it. Conventional oil in an engine that requires synthetic doesn't just underperform. It breaks down faster under heat, it leaves deposits, and in a turbocharged engine, it can cause a failure mode called low-speed pre-ignition, which I'll come back to in a minute because it's a genuinely terrifying, and I want to give it the time it deserves. Why this mistake is so easy to make, so why does this mistake happen so often? Honestly, a few reasons, and none of them make you a bad person. The first one is the store shelf. Go stand in front of the motor oil section at any auto parts store and count the products. Go ahead, I'll wait. It's overwhelming. Dozens of bottles, similar labels, similar colors, similar numbers, and they're all marketed to sound like the best possible choice for your engine. Premium this, advanced that, maximum protection, ultimate performance. None of which tells you what you actually need to know, which is whether this specific bottle matches your specific engine. The second reason is that shops sometimes substitute, not always with bad intent, but a shop running low on the exact spec your car needs might reach for something close. Or they're pushing their house brand, or someone just grabbed the wrong jug off the shelf, and neither you nor they noticed. Without a logbook and a clear understanding of what your engine actually takes, you'd never know. And the third reason, and this one I find genuinely alarming, is counterfeit oil. This is real. It's more common than most people know, and it's getting worse. Counterfeit motor oil is sold in convincing bottles with convincing labels at prices that seem like a great deal, mostly through third-party online sellers. The oil inside can be recycled, off-spec, or simply not what the label claims. The API certification mark on the back, the little circle with the rating in the center, is your main defense against this. If that mark isn't there, or if the deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. Saving $6 on fake oil is one of the most expensive decisions you can make. What actually happens inside the engine? Let me tell you what actually happens inside your engine when the oil is wrong, because understanding the mechanics of it makes this feel as serious as it actually is. Your engine has a part called the crankshaft, spinning at thousands of revolutions per minute, and it's separated from its bearing surfaces by a film of oil that under normal conditions is only a few thousandths of an inch thick. That film is everything. It's the only thing standing between a spinning crankshaft and the metal it rides on. When the oil is the right specification, that film holds. When it's wrong, when it's too thin for the heat, or too thick to get there fast enough on startup, the film breaks down or arrives late. When metal touches metal in an engine bearing, it doesn't bounce back. Material is removed permanently. And what happens to that material? It goes into your oil supply, circulates through the engine, and starts acting like a very slow and very expensive lapping compound on every other surface it touches. And then there's sludge. Oh, the sludge conversation. Wrong oil, particularly conventional oil in an engine designed for synthetic, breaks down faster under heat. As it breaks down, it oxidizes and thickens. That thick degraded oil starts to collect in the low spots of your engine, the areas with the least flow, and then it bakes. Over time, you get a layer of blackened gel clogging oil passages, starving parts of lubrication, and sitting in places an engine flush can sometimes help and sometimes not reach at all. Sludge is one of those things that's almost invisible until the day a mechanic pulls your valve cover off and goes quiet for a moment before telling you something that makes you want to sit down. I've seen it happen. The look on people's faces when they find out what's been going on inside an engine they thought was fine. Don't be that person. The cold start problem. Now here's something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the oil conversation, and it should. The cold start. That first 30 seconds after you turn the key on a cold morning is when your engine does the most lifetime wear of any driving condition. More than highway miles, more than towing, more than hard acceleration. The cold start is the most brutal thing your engine experiences every single day. Here's why. When the engine has been sitting, oil drains down into the pan. The passages above, the ones that feed your camshafts, your valve train, your upper engine components, are essentially empty. Quote, the moment you start it, there's a gap, again, sometimes just a second or two, sometimes a little longer, depending on temperature and oil viscosity, where the oil pump is racing to push oil up through those passages and parts are running with minimal lubrication. The right oil specification minimizes that gap. A 0W rating means the oil flows almost like water in the cold, reaching those passages as fast as a pump can push it. A thicker cold rating means it takes longer, and in the context of engine wear, longer is measured in seconds, but those seconds happen every single day, twice a day, if you count the drive home for the life of the vehicle. This is why the cold weather viscosity rating isn't some technicality to ignore. It's arguably the most important number on the bottle. And it's also why the old conventional wisdom of letting your engine idle to warm up before driving, while completely understandable, doesn't solve this problem. The oil reaches operating temperature faster under gentle driving load than at idle, which means a shorter period of incomplete lubrication and less overall cold start wear. 30 seconds of idle for oil pressure to build. Then drive gently. That's still the right advice. But the oil doing that job needs to be the right oil. Turbocharged engines, the highest stakes now. I want to talk specifically about turbocharged engines because if you drive one, this section might be the most important few minutes you spend on car maintenance all year. Turbochargers spin at speeds that would make your head hurt to think about. We're talking upward of 100,000, sometimes 200,000 revolutions per minute on a small, modern turbo. And the shaft that holds that turbine wheel is lubricated and cooled by your engine oil, the same oil, the oil that's also lubricating your bearings and your valve train and everything else. A turbo running on degraded oil or wrong spec oil or oil that breaks down faster than it should under heat will fail. And a turbo failure is not a cheap afternoon. We're talking repairs that start around $1,500 and go up from there depending on the engine. But there's something even worse that wrong oil does to turbocharged engines specifically. It's called low-speed pre-ignition, and the industry abbreviation is LSPI. What it means in plain terms is a spontaneous, uncontrolled explosion inside the cylinder at exactly the wrong moment. Not the controlled burn the engine expects from the spark plug firing. A random detonation caused by oil droplets or carbon deposits igniting in the compressed charge before the spark even fires. LSPI can bend connecting rods. It can crack pistons. It can destroy an engine in a single event or weaken it to the point where failure is just a matter of when. And it happens most often in modern small turbocharged engines running low viscosity oils with the wrong additive package, specifically oils that don't meet the specifications those engines were engineered for. The API rating SP and the LSAC GF6 standard were introduced specifically to address LSPI protection. If your modern turbocharged engine requires an oil meeting those specs and you're running something older or off-spec, you are gambling with an engine you probably can't afford to replace. How to get it right every single time, so let's fix this. Here is the 3-step system that takes about 90 seconds and means you will never put the wrong oil in your engine again. Step 1. Open the owner's manual and find the oil specification page. I know, revolutionary stuff. But here's the thing. More than half of people have never actually done this. They went off what the dealer put in or what the shop used or what they remembered from the last car. Your owner's manual will tell you the exact viscosity grade, whether synthetic is required, and often the API or ACS specification the oil must meet. Write it down. Put it in your phone, tape it to the inside of your glove box. However you need to remember it, do that. Step 2. Check the oil filler cap on your engine. A lot of manufacturers print the required viscosity right there on the cap itself. It's not always there, but when it is, it's the most convenient reminder imaginable. Take a photo of it. Step 3. When you're at the store looking at oil bottles, find the API donut on the back label. It's a circle divided into sections. The top section shows the service category. Currently, SP for gasoline engines is what you want for most modern cars. The center shows the viscosity grade. Check both of those against what your manual says. If they match, you're good. If they don't, put it back. That's it. 3 steps, 90 seconds, and your engine gets exactly what it was engineered to run on every single time for its entire life. One more thing on specification. If your car is older, say pre-2000, and it's been running conventional oil its whole life, switching to full synthetic at high mileage deserves a conversation with a trusted mechanic first. Not because synthetic is bad, it isn't, but because very high mileage engines sometimes have seal wear that conventional oil's slightly thicker nature has been masking, and a sudden switch can cause leaks to appear. It's a real consideration, not a reason to fear synthetic, just a reason to think it through. The bonus mistake nobody talks about. Now, I promised you a bonus mistake, and this one is shorter, but don't skip it, because it's the kind of thing that sneaks up on everyone eventually, topping off with the wrong oil. Your engine is a quart low. You're in a hurry, you grab whatever is on the shelf at the gas station, which is sometimes a very short list of options, none of which might be exactly right. And you think, it's just a top off. It's only a quart. It'll be fine. Here's the thing. Mixing oil types, mixing viscosity grades, mixing conventional and synthetic is not immediately catastrophic. Your engine will survive it in the short term, but you've just diluted your oil's performance characteristics. If you had a 0W24 synthetic in there and you topped it off with a 5W30 conventional, because that's all they had, the blend in your engine is now neither of those things. It's somewhere in between, and somewhere in between isn't what your engine was designed for. The right answer is to always keep a spare quart of the correct oil in your trunk. I know that sounds fussy. I know it sounds like the kind of advice you nod at and then don't do. But a quart of the right oil costs a few dollars. It fits behind your spare tire. And it means that when you're 200 miles from home and a quart low, you top off with exactly what your engine needs instead of whatever the gas station happened to stock. And while we're here, never mix oil brands across changes. Drain it completely, refill it completely with the right spec. Fresh and correct beats partially right every single time. So here's where we land. The number one oil change mistake that ruins engines isn't changing it too late, though that matters. It isn't over-tightening the drain plug, though please don't do that either. It's putting in oil that doesn't match what your engine was engineered for, the wrong viscosity, the wrong specification, conventional where synthetic is required, or the right label on a counterfeit bottle that contains something else entirely. It doesn't announce itself. There's no warning light for gradually increasing wear. There's no noise until something serious is already wrong. There's just an engine that slowly accumulates damage across thousands of cold starts and millions of revolutions until one day the mechanic pulls a part out and asks if you've been running the right oil. Do two things before your next oil change. Open the manual and find the exact specification. Then go look at the oil you've been using and confirm it matches. If it does, great. If it doesn't, now you know. The whole secret is 90 seconds of checking before you pour anything in. That's all that stands between an engine that lasts and one that doesn't. If this was useful, do me a favor and subscribe and drop your engine oil spec in the comments. Let's see how many different specifications are out there across everyone watching, because I have a feeling it's a longer list than most people expect. And don't miss the next one. I'm going over the cooling system mistakes that quietly lead to overheating, including the one check that takes 30 seconds and could save your engine this summer. You'll want to see that before the temperature climbs. Check the spec, match the bottle, keep a quart in the trunk. That's the whole habit, and your engine will thank you for it for the next 200,000 miles.